Countries trade with each other when, on their own, they do not have the resources or capacity to satisfy their own needs and wants. By developing and exploiting their domestic scarce resources, countries can produce a surplus and trade this for the resources that they need.
Absolute advantage is defined as the ability of a country to carry out a particular economic activity more efficiently than another individual or group. In this example, we see that when it comes to corn, country B has an absolute advantage because they could produce more units of corn in the same amount of time that country A can. However, when it comes to rice, country A could produce more units of rice than country B in the same amount of time.
Comparative advantage is the ability of an individual or group to carry out a particular economic activity more efficiently than another activity. As we have set up here, we have an output problem between country A and country B producing rice and corn. In order to determine which country has comparative advantage, you follow the acronym OOO, output, other, over. And in this particular problem, we're determining which country has comparative advantage in rice. As seen, country A is giving up 2 units of corn for every 1 unit of rice, compared to country B is giving up 6 units of corn for every 1 unit of rice. Therefore, the comparative advantage goes to country A in rice. In this situation, we have an input problem between country A and country B, and again, rice and corn. In order to determine who has comparative advantage in an input problem, you use the acronym IOU, which stands for input, other, under. In this certain scenario, we're trying to see who has comparative advantage for rice. Country A can make it in half the time that country B can make it. Therefore, they have the comparative advantage for making rice.
Production possibilities curve is a visual way to represent opportunity cost between producing one product as opposed to another product. Hi, I'm Professor James, and we're going to talk about terms of trade, the next step after comparative advantage. So now, after we learned that country A, from the same output problem as before, is going to produce rice because it has that comparative advantage, and country B will produce corn over rice because it has that comparative advantage, we find that terms of trade comes into play. Country A produces 1 rice and gives up its opportunity cost is 2 corn. So if it wants to produce 1 corn, its opportunity cost is half a rice. So it's willing to trade for 1 corn less than half a rice because it could have just made a corn for half a rice. So its terms of trade would be 1/3 rice for now country B wants to produce corn. So if it produces 1 rice, it's going to cost 6 corn of itself. So they want to instead get rice for less than 6 corn. So it's willing to give up 5 corn. So the terms of trade will be 1/3 rice for 5 corn, which if you round to whole numbers is 1 rice for 15 corn. 1.
What are trade barriers? Trade barriers are tariffs and quotas, and the goal of these is to limit economic efficiency. They usually protect domestic sellers and hurt domestic buyers, and their main purpose is to slow economic process, and government uses them during periods of high inflation.
Hey, you might ask yourself specifically, what is a tariff? A tariff is a tax on imported goods. A tariff generates income for the government. The United States imposes a tariff of more than 10% on all its imported textiles and shoes.
On the other hand, what are quotas? A quota is a set amount of an import that is allowed in a country. An example is OPEC. They limit the amount of crude oil that they export so that it can maintain its price worldwide.
So trade doesn't happen all the time. Why would someone inhibit trade? Well, here's some reasons why countries may restrict trade. For example, you can gain a price advantage, or maybe even national defense and other non-economic reasons. Preservation of domestic jobs, maintenance of a diverse and stable economy, or even prevention of exploitations. But watch out! Retaliation may eliminate their advantage and make all countries worse off.